Hello, welcome back to another video. A lot of you guys have been asking about our camera gear, what we use to film video, what we use for still photography. So in this video, we're gonna show you everything. But Chris is the expert in that department, so I'm gonna let him handle this one.
All right, let's get into it. So first of all, thank you for everybody that's commented asking about photography related questions. I love talking about that stuff. So that's this video. I'm going to show you absolutely everything that I carry with me day to day when we're traveling in order to produce this content. Now, this isn't necessarily going to be a what's the best camera or what's the best piece of equipment for any given scenario, but if you like our content, you like the quality of the video and the still photography that we produce, some of this equipment that I show you can obviously replicate that, but you don't need it to get the same quality of photo and video. I'll touch on that a little more later. Now, I wanted to keep this also equipment focused rather than photography 101. So I've actually created a supplementary blog post that I'll link below and throw a QR code somewhere. So you can go there if you want a little bit more advice on how to improve your photography game. So in this video, I'm kind of assuming that you've dabbled a little bit in photography. You want to step up your game, maybe just like take it to that next level. And that's what I'm going to show you. Now, this isn't a sponsored video. I didn't want to take any sponsorships or run any ads or anything like that for this video. I just want to show you genuinely everything that I use, that I've discovered and chosen through trial and error, through my entire process of shooting still photography and video specifically for this YouTube channel. So this is all real world opinion. I'll make sure to leave links to all of this stuff that I'm showing you below. So if you want to check it out for yourself, it'll all be right there. So first things first, you don't need to buy another camera. You've probably heard the saying before, the best camera is the one you have on you. And it's true. You can have all the best gear in the world. If you leave it in your backpack, or it's at home, or the battery dies, or it's just too big and bulky and you're too lazy to take it out, well, you're not taking any pictures. But what does everyone have on them at all times? Your phone. A pro with this would do a better job than an amateur with a $10,000 camera setup. Now, phones have gotten so good in the last few years, especially with the computational photography that the processors are doing, that they're extremely powerful and almost begs the questions, do you even really need a different camera other than your phone? Now, the answer to that is yes and no. Yes, if you've got some specific needs, and I'll touch on that in a bit, but no, if really you just want to take some really decent pictures and video and share them online. Now, Allie and I have actually done trips where we shoot absolutely every piece of content that we produce strictly with our phones. Now, another great thing about phones is that chances are you're hooked up to some type of cloud service like Google Photos or iCloud, so everything you shoot automatically gets uploaded there and you never have to worry about storing it locally or losing that information. Now, a couple tips that I'll give when using phones is, first one, don't pinch to zoom. This might sound a little counterintuitive, but you don't want to be in between your lenses. Most phones nowadays have multiple lenses and you've always got the 0.5, 1 times, 2 times, 5 times if you've got the telephoto lens, and you want to make sure that you're exactly on those specific lenses. If you're pinching to zoom and you're in between 1 and 2 times, you're actually just taking the 1 times and cropping it in a little bit. So you're not using the full resolution that your camera lenses on your phone are capable of. So don't be afraid to frame your shot a little wider than you typically would, just in case you need to crop in after the fact. You have all that space there that'll let you do that. You can't get in tight and then zoom out once you've already taken the picture. Also, if you're taking pictures of people in front of like a scenic vista or a nice building or something like that, leave a lot of space behind them so you can see what they're standing in front of. So you can show that they were there and you know what it was. I see a lot of people where they pinch and zoom all the way in and you end up with this headshot of a couple people, but you have no idea where it was actually taken. So try to make your pictures look more like this and a little less like this. Most of you probably know what I'm talking about, and if you don't, well, this information might be for you. You know who you are. Okay, let's talk cameras. So the main camera that we use is the Sony a6700, and this does 2 things that I need: interchangeable lenses and 4K 60 frames per second video. Now for lenses, I have 3 for this camera. One that's on it right now, so you can get a wide enough angle because I'm too tall for this basement, is the Sony 11mm f1.8. Great wide angle lens. The second one is the Sigma 16mm f1.4. This does all the studio work that you see Allie in when she's talking in her office. And the third, and probably the best one for travel, is the Sigma 18-50 f2.8. This is a zoom lens. This will go pretty wide at 18 mil, and then it allows you to zoom in a little bit. It goes up to 50 millimeter, which is pretty good in most applications to get close enough to something that you want to take a picture of. Another great benefit of this is its size and weight. This is basically half the size of a beer can, which makes it excellent to pack away light for travel. That's another huge component of this setup as well, is the size and weight. Together, the camera and one of these lenses makes a pretty tight package that I can throw in any small bag, even like a backpack or a personal item, and take it anywhere I need to go and shoot anything that I need to. Now, another major component of this camera that I really needed was its ability to shoot 4K 60 frames per second. And this is one of the cheapest cameras that can do that. I want that resolution and that buttery smooth frame rate to be as immersive and look as good as possible. If you're not into shooting video, or you don't need 4K 60 FPS, if 4K 30 or even 1080p 60 is sufficient, then there is a lot of options that are significantly less expensive than this. This is also an APS-C camera. That refers to the sensor size. You've probably heard of 1-inch APS-C or full frame. I also chose an APS-C camera specifically because they're typically a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter. And with today's cameras, you don't really sacrifice a lot of low light capability or image quality down from full frame to an APS-C sensor. So if you want to upgrade from your phone and you don't need all of that capability, there's even point and shoots that are relatively inexpensive that allow you to have all of the functionality, capability, and quality of a proper digital camera without the bulk and the added expense. They all take fantastic pictures and video. I'll leave some links below to some that I recommend, like the Sony RX100 series, the Fuji X100, as well as a couple more. Okay, let's talk all the accessories that I use with my cameras. First thing is my wrist strap. This is the Peak Design wrist strap. I like this because of the way it clips on and off of my camera, so I can leave the little button on there and then just clip this on and off whenever I need to use it. Now, Peak Design products are not inexpensive, but they are very high quality and they do the job they were designed for pretty well, in my opinion. Now, batteries and storage. In addition to the battery that comes with the camera, I do have this newer little battery bank. This holds 2 of the batteries for this camera in this neat little case. You can charge it using USB or USB-C. It also doubles as a power bank, so you can actually take power from the batteries in here to charge like your phone or some other accessory or something like that. It also has some storage for SD cards, so it just kind of keeps everything all together really nice. Now, it is a little bulky if you're going super lightweight, so for that, I actually prefer these other batteries. These are chargeable through a USB-C socket directly in the battery itself. So you don't need an extra charger, anything else extra. You just need this and the charging cable you've probably got with you already anyway. So very light, makes it very easy. SD cards. This is pretty straightforward. Pretty much all SD cards work. If you don't need slow-mo video or really high resolution stuff, you can go with anything that's pretty basic. Now, I do recommend buying some decent name brand cards so you know the quality is going to be there. They're cheap unless you need something of super high capability for slow-mo footage or super high resolution. Anything basic, like any V30 card, is going to work just fine for most applications. I personally use the V60s because we do use a little bit of slow motion video within our footage, so I do need that capability. But yeah, don't cheap out on video cards, because the last thing you want is for a card to become corrupt and then all your footage and photos disappear. Now, I do also have a filter set here. This set actually contains 3 separate filters. It's got a circular polarizing filter, a variable ND filter, but the one I use primarily, I keep on the Sigma 18-50, and that is just a standard UV filter. I just use it as an extra clear layer of protection on the front of the lens element, so I can take this on a boat to the ocean, so I'm not going to get any sand or water, any debris on the front element itself. So that's just basically a shield for the front of my lens. Now, another thing when it comes to protecting your lens, I always use the lens hoods that come with the lenses. Now, this has less to do with directing the light away from the lens element and more to do with actually using this as basically a bumper. These are cheap. If I break one of these because I'm running and gunning in town somewhere and end up banging it against a wall or a table in a restaurant or something like that, I won't cry about this. I will cry about this. Now, continuing with protection, I also like to use these self-adhesive little camera cloths. So it's basically like a small, almost like a microfiber cloth, but it sticks to itself. So basically what you do is you wrap a camera in this, and then it holds together just to give a nice soft layer of protection to a camera. Sometimes I'll use this instead of my camera bag to just throw this in a bag, and it gives it enough protection that I need. That way I can be even more lightweight if necessary if I don't have the room to carry my normal camera bag. Now let's talk about my normal camera bag. This is a BagSmart product. They call it their DSLR sling. It's about a 5-liter camera sling. This is basically a bit of a knockoff of the Peak Design sling, but a little bit better in my opinion. Aside from being significantly cheaper, it actually opens up a little bit wider. The organization inside makes a little bit more sense, and I like that it's a little bit softer, so it is easier to maneuver around. It's a little bit lighter. It just works for exactly what I need it to do. So inside of this bag, I will actually carry my A6700 main camera, 2 lenses, and then there's also enough room in there that I can put one of my compact film cameras. More on film in a bit. Now I do want to touch a little bit on cleaning, so I do have a couple things here that I want to show you. First thing is a blower. So when I clean my lenses, I kind of do a bit of a 3-step process. Now, you don't really want to blow directly on your lens because you're just going to end up getting spit on it. Not the best. So that's where these blowers come in. So you're going to get any of the major debris. That gets rid of that. Now, for everything else that's still sticking, I use one of these lens pens. So basically what this has is a retractable brush, and it's a very soft brush, so you can use it on your lens and brush off any additional lens that didn't come off when you use the blower. Now after that, if there's anything left on there, like fingerprints or smudges or little spots or anything like that, that's where a lens cleaning cloth will come in. That you want to wait until last. If you're rubbing the front of your lens while you've got some dust or debris on there with a cloth, you could end up with some cleaning marks. Now, cloths come in a couple different flavors. I do use your typical glasses like lens cleaning cloth. You probably have a million of these at home. These come with pretty much everything. I also have some individual kind of alcohol wipes, glass cleaning wipes, as well as sealed microfiber cloth. So I'll keep these in an emergency, just in case my standard lens cleaning cloth that I'm using ends up getting dirty or I lose it. I do have these as a backup, and they're sealed, so they're not going to get dirty just by banging around inside my luggage or inside my camera bag. Now, I do believe maintenance is important. You take care of your gear, it'll take care of you, and all of this stuff is very, very inexpensive. So definitely invest in some proper cleaning equipment so you can maintain your gear. It'll last forever. Okay, let's talk tripods. Typically, I don't bring a tripod with me when we travel just because I've found that we don't really use it. But what I do like to bring is one of 2 things. I've actually got this one tripod / remote here. This is a Sony branded one, so it works really well with the Sony cameras. It works as a tripod, as well as it does have some controls on the front, so it actually works as a remote. So it'll take video, take pictures, and it'll zoom in and out if you have a power zoom lens. Recently, I've also been liking these Gorilla Pods. These are flexible tripods. They wrap on poles. You can put them on uneven terrain. They even double as a selfie stick if you want to use it that way. These are great. They're small, they're lightweight, and it'll let you put your camera pretty much anywhere you want. Now that basically covers it. That's everything I use for any digital stills or video production type work that we do for this YouTube channel. So that brings me to my new favorite method of still photography. That's right, I'm back into film. You guys have seen a lot of the stills that we kind of interlace within our videos. Okay, so why film though? And why is it so hot all over the internet now? Honestly, I think film photos look great. For all of their flaws, lens flare, the film grain, the different color temperatures and warmths and blues and greens and everything that you can get that's so unique to film. And I really love it, and I'm so glad I got back into it after probably 20 years. And who doesn't love that? Nice. It just feels so visceral and organic to be able to shoot film. And it really makes you slow down and think about your compositions and focus on the exposure and what you're taking a picture of. Because after all, film isn't free. You can't just put it on rapid fire and take 1,000,000 pictures like you can with a digital camera. Do you like film too? Yeah. Okay. What are you doing down here, Dougie? It is something to keep in mind. These film bodies can be picked up for pretty inexpensive, like off eBay or from a seller on Facebook Marketplace or something like that. But you do have to keep in mind that pretty much every time you hit the shutter button, it's $1, $2, But seriously though, it's as easy to get into as a $20 disposable camera, and you can produce some really unique shots with a ton of character. Another cool thing is you don't really have to worry about any type of photo editing because you can't fix it in post, you have to fix it in pre. So I want to show you a few of the cameras that I have here and show you kind of what matters when you're getting into film photography, and it really comes down to two things. It's a little different from digital cameras. When you're buying a digital camera, you're buying the sensor and all of the computer equipment on the inside that allows that sensor to process really high quality images. It's not like that with film cameras. The two components that determine the outcome of a film photo is the lens and the film stock. Now, it might sound counterintuitive, but this camera that looks pretty beefy and this camera that looks all small and petite, these actually produce remarkably similar pictures if you're using the same film. Now, two of my favorite film stocks right now are Fuji 200. It's very inexpensive, $5 or $6 a roll, and it produces that kind of classic, warm, grainy film photo that I think most of us are going for. And my other favorite right now that I've got is Portra 400. This is a little bit more expensive, but it produces a really, really sharp, really well-colored picture, and this is kind of my go-to lately. Okay, but what about the camera bodies themselves? Film cameras are really separated into three different categories: point and shoots, rangefinders, and SLRs. And unlike digital cameras that have that dial that let you switch from automatic, shutter priority, aperture priority, or full manual, with film cameras, they kind of only do one or a couple of those things. So depending on what capability you want, kind of determines what film body you buy. Now, my current film camera inventory is a Canon SureShot Supreme point and shoot, the Olympus 35RC, Canon at QL17G3, the Yashica Electro 35 CCN, the Canon A1, and the Yashica D twin lens reflex. Now, I'm not going to go into detail on every single one of these cameras, but I want to show you the ones that get the most mileage. And right now, that's my Canon A1 and the Olympus 35RC. Now, if you've been researching film photography for any amount of time, you'll probably recognize this one. This is the big brother to the Canon AE1. This one just has a little bit more functionality like aperture priority and fully automatic program mode. So this might actually be a good option for somebody first getting into film photography because this camera will do fully automatic mode. So you don't have to worry about settings and getting the proper exposure. This will do it for you. The Canon A1 has an excellent viewfinder with a digital readout as well as a really, really good light meter, but this one does need a battery to operate. Our other favorite camera right now, we actually have two of them, is the Olympus 35RC. This is actually one of the smallest full-frame 35mm film cameras that you can get. The only camera that's smaller than this is the Rollei 35, but that one is actually a zone focus camera only. So it's a little bit more difficult to operate as you have to know your distance from your subject to make sure that it's going to be in focus, where this one has the standard focus ring. So it kind of goes without saying that Allie and I love these cameras just because they are so small and compact. It's barely bigger than a deck of cards, so they're great for travel and they produce excellent pictures. The only limitation to this is obviously it's a fixed lens camera. It's a 42mm lens, which is a pretty good focal length, but it doesn't give you the option to go any wider or any tighter. This lens also has an aperture of 2.8, where the lens I have on the Canon A1 goes down to 1.4. So if you need something that's a little bit more low light capable, something like a SLR camera that'll allow you to interchange a 1.4 aperture lens on it is going to be better for that use case. So unless you're doing some extreme low light photography, something like this or similar is going to work for pretty much most scenarios, especially for travel photography. Another great thing about this camera is it can take a battery and it does have a light meter on it, but this is a fully mechanical camera. So you can actually run it, and we typically run it with no battery in it. We just shoot without one. Okay, but if it's fully mechanical and there's no battery in it and you're not using the light meter, then how do you know what your exposure is supposed to be? So I will do one of two things. First, I've actually got a Lightmeter app on my phone. It's just called Lightmeter. I'll link the one I use, but there's multiple different ones you can get for either Android or iPhone. Or I'll use a method called Sunny 16, which is basically just eyeballing it. Now, how Sunny 16 works is you set your aperture to f16, and then you set your shutter speed to be the same as your film ISO. So if you have a film stock that's ISO 400, you set your shutter speed to the closest you can get to 400, typically 1/500th of a second. So then with your aperture set at f16 and your shutter speed set to match your film ISO, in broad daylight when it's sunny out, you'll get a proper exposure. And then if the light changes, like if it gets cloudy or the sun starts going down, then you just adjust incrementally to allow more light into your camera, either by opening the aperture or using a longer shutter speed. Now, this might seem a little counterintuitive because it's like, well, how do you get a proper exposure if you're just winging it? But the beauty of film is its exposure latitude. And basically what that means is you don't have to be exact. You can be 2 stops underexposed or up to 6 stops overexposed and still get a very, very good exposure. So unlike digital, where you really don't want to overexpose your shots because then you get blown out and all that information is lost if you want to edit it, film, on the other hand, you actually want to overexpose slightly. So what I typically do is I will overexpose 2 stops with film. So instead of f16 when it's sunny out in the middle of the day, I'll actually use f8 just to be sure I'm not underexposing my film. And like I mentioned before, as the light changes, I'll incrementally change my aperture to match the decreasing light conditions. So for instance, if I'm walking around, it's broad daylight, sun's out, I'll be shooting at f8 with my shutter speed that matches my film ISO. And then if I'm trying to take a picture of something that's maybe shaded, I'll drop it down to f5.6, maybe even f4. And then if some cloud comes overhead, same thing. Open that aperture up a stop or 2, and then you know you're for sure getting a good exposure. I'll leave a little cheat sheet link below that'll show how you should adjust your camera based on the changing light conditions between full sun, partial cloud, full cloud, golden hour, and even sunset. But if this sounds a little complicated, just use a Lightmeter app. Easy. So that's pretty much my film setup. The Olympus 35RC, when I need lightweight and I like having a fully mechanical camera, I don't have to worry about batteries or anything. Or if I need something a little more low light capable because I've got an f1.8 lens on my Canon, I'll take this one. Even set it on auto and I don't even have to think about it. But that's it. That's every camera and piece of equipment that we use for digital stills, film stills, and all the video that we shoot to create these YouTube videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you guys making it this far into the video. And if you have any questions on this stuff, leave them in the comments. I will answer everything. I could talk about camera stuff all day long, as I think I've proved here. So we'll see you on the next one. This is like ASMR. Film ASMR with dolls. Ooh, very nice.